Okay, Jonathan is telling us that is now time to get started. So welcome everybody, and my name is Louise Foreman and I'm an Education Officer here at Education Scotland. This Scottish Learning Festival seminar will provide an overview of the amazing world of computing science, which is available to all our learners and practitioners across Scotland. I'll share some of the contemporary computing science experiences and resources that are available, along with some of our global and national partnerships who support also Scottish educators and learners as well. The most important part, though, of the seminar will be the showcase from our practitioners, Callum and Laura. They'll share their practice and the high level of engagement with learners. So Callum and Laura, over to yourselves just to say a quick hello. Callum, do you want to start?
Yeah, hi, Callum Croghan. I'm at North Lanarkshire Council. I'm a digital pedagogy practitioner, and I've been doing this now for the past couple of years. And I'll kind of talk about a little bit about coding and a little bit about some pathways later on for you.
Excellent. And Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Di Pasquale. I'm in Glasgow City Council. I'm a teacher there, and I'm part of the Apple RTC within Glasgow. And I'm going to be talking about microbits and my own experience in the primary classroom.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for agreeing to support this seminar about the amazing world of computing science. So to set the scene, the experiences of our young people, the experiences our young people have today in the modern world is very, very different to the experiences I've had growing up, and you probably have growing up, particularly in terms of digital technology. So the one question I want you to keep at the forefront of your mind today is, how are you continuing to address this fact? Because computing science is an incredibly creative, exciting and inspiring area of our curriculum, and it really is essential that practitioners and all our young people benefit from the wealth of opportunities offered by the subject. Computing science will enable all our young people to gain that knowledge and skills to help them make sense of and contribute to society and the society that they live in. As we know, computing science is all around us, all around the world around us. And it's down to our young people, because they will be the people who will create the technology, but they will also design their and our future. So I just wanted to set that scene with you with regards to computing science and why it is so amazing. Now I'm going to be just taking you through the computing landscape across Scotland and what again is so amazing about the computing science landscape across Scotland. I'm going to be speaking a bit about our computing science curriculum and some of the amazing global and national partners that we've made in the world of computing science, and then hand over to the practitioner exemplification. So it is very exciting what's been happening across Scotland. We've had an amazing partnership between Education Scotland, Scottish Government and the Microbit Education Foundation. We have just rolled out over 40,000 microbits to every single school in Scotland. So every single primary and secondary school will have a minimum of 20 microbits each. We have had over 20,000 learners joining our live code-alongs. They have sent code into space with AstroPi. We've saved the planet with Code Club and improved our health and well-being with Microbit. We have a national network of computing science leaders for early learning, childcare and primary across all 32 local authorities. We now have over 500 practitioners within our team contributing, sharing and accessing opportunities available just to this group of practitioners. We have had over 2,500 practitioners take part in our computing science courses and webinars. And we also have DigiLearn Scot and DigiLearn Computing Science websites, providing that space to access resources, a watch again facility via YouTube, courses and exemplification for practitioners. So when I say there has never been a more exciting time to engage in computing science across our broad general education, this is what I'm speaking about. But what I also want to address is the why of computing science. And I find this really, really interesting, particularly when I'm presenting to parents and families and to practitioners, to really set the scene of computing technology in the world around us, but more importantly, how it's going to impact on the destinations of our young people. So this first fact about, more people do in fact own a mobile phone than a toothbrush. Now, they have tried to debunk this myth on a number of occasions, but unfortunately, worldwide sales of mobile phones are much higher than worldwide sales of toothbrushes. A very, very sad fact. And I love sharing this fact, particularly with learners, that our smartphone is millions of times more powerful than NASA used to go to the moon in 1969. An absolutely amazing, mind-blowing fact that you could just do so much to discuss this with your learners. Also 10%, so 90% of the world's currency only exists on computers, which means 10% of the world's currency is only physical cash. And that kind of blows my mind, but in actual fact, I don't know the last time that I actually used any physical cash. I don't know where you are with that. I also like to share the fact about Mashable, which used to be the world's most profitable blog, and it was created by a 19-year-old from Aberdeenshire while he lived with his mum and dad. He now lives in California, and he sold Mashable for an estimated $200 million. And that really relates to our Scottish learners to say, this is achievable to all of you, and it's really about raising those aspirations of all our learners. And then finally, what technology should we be looking out for in 2022? Well, obviously, artificial intelligence, robotics, drones. We've had that around for quite a long time now. Looking at 5G, but now also looking at 6G on our horizons, extended reality, which I'll go back to, virtual, augmented reality, and cybersecurity and resilience. Going back to the extended reality and particularly focusing on the metaverse, which we hear an awful lot about, particularly in the media, and I'm sure a lot of our learners will know more about the metaverse than most of us will do. However, when I speak about positive destinations, many of our young people will be moving into positive destinations within the metaverse. They may be metaverse architects, they may be designing the avatars for the metaverse, or even clothes designers for avatars. They might be metaverse event directors or research scientists within the metaverse. And I think that's really, really important to be speaking about those new future positive destinations that we all need to know and understand computing science. So again, just continuing with why we should be teaching computing science, and this is very, very important again to share with your learners. We are focusing on how does computing science affect us on a daily basis, but more importantly, what is that going to look like in the next 10 years? And also to talk to your learners and your young people about, do we know any computer scientists? Do we know any famous computer scientists? Maybe we would like to do some research into people such as Ada Lovelace and Grace Hopper. And that stimulates a great deal of conversations. So I also want to share with you information from the World Economic Forum, which is quite startling, in fact. By 2025, 85 million jobs will be displaced by a shift in the division of labour between humans and machines. 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2025 as the adoption of technology increases. And at the heart of that, these top 10 skills, critical thinking and problem solving will top the list of skills employers believe will grow in prominence just in the next 5 years. So that's hugely important because at the heart of computing science is critical thinking and problem solving. Also, just to provide you with the Scottish context, and this is from a report from Skills Development Scotland. There is nothing new or startling here at all, but it is important to be able to share that Scottish context. So yes, we know the technologies is the fastest growing sector in Scotland. We require 13,000 new jobs each year to be developed. And that's increasing and increasing on a yearly basis. It contributes 5.25 billion to the Scottish economy, again relating that back to those sustainable destinations. And this is very important to share. The average salary is 37,500, and again that continues to increase. But the two last statistics are incredibly sad because we still only have 23% of females that represent our digital industries and less than 10% in our STEM industries. And I'm sure that Laura and Callum will be speaking about how they have been engaging all learners in computing science. So I also want to touch on the fact that computing science is also part of how good is our school. So that's our self-evaluation framework for schools. And it comes in at 3.3, increasing creativity and employability. And again, it's all about computational thinking and how that sits at the heart of our curriculum. And how do we use computing science to support digital skills? Also, as part of our curriculum, we have our 3 organisers for computing science. We have computational thinking, which is all about, as I've said, that critical thinking, that problem solving, how we solve problems with or without a computer. And that's really, really important because it is a lot about unplugged learning as well. Being able to develop children's computational thinking is central to our curriculum, particularly in early learning in childcare and primary. But it actually goes further and much further beyond that, because when you begin to delve into computational thinking, knowledge and understanding, you begin to see computational thinking all around us in the world. We then move on to understanding and analysing computing technology. So understanding how technology affects our daily lives and also being able to analyse those computing processes. And then finally, the one that a lot of teachers jump to is the designing, building and testing computing solutions. So that's the programming, the designing, the repetition, the sequence, the loops, the conditional repetitions. So really, building that knowledge, building that creativity and design using, whether it be block-based coding or Python, whatever your choice of program is. So I also want to share with you before we move on to the practitioners is, what courses do we offer nationally to practitioners and also to learners? So the first one there, this is primary computing science. That really is our foundation, our getting started with computing science. It starts with computational thinking and how we can embed that across our curriculum. Then moving on with programming, understanding core programming concepts, sequences, repetition, selection, and finishing with those pedagogical approaches such as PRIM, use, modify, create, Parsons problems. This course is based on the computing science work developed nationally by BCS, Barefoot Computing, but also the amazing research by the Raspberry Pi Foundation as well. So it's very, very important that our courses are firmly based on that research. We also have This is Microbit. So since rolling out 40,000 microbits across Scotland, that has been hugely important. And the great partnership that we have with the Microbit Education Foundation has been hugely important in forging those relationships together with Education Scotland, Scottish Government and Microbit, but across all of our schools in Scotland. During this course, we focus on getting started with a microbit. We then move on to inputs and outputs, looking at the microbit classroom and also how we can embed the microbit across the curriculum. I also just want to highlight one other course. We also do amazing live code alongs, which I have also addressed as well, which are just phenomenal and superb. And we have thousands of learners joining these. And it's almost like professional learning by stealth for practitioners as well. And we also say, during these live code alongs, just let the kids tinker, debug and play around with it, and they will come up with the solutions. But I do want to also mention that we're now global partners with the Scratch Education Foundation at MIT. This is an amazing partnership and it will forge amazing opportunities for practitioners across Scotland, because at the heart of computing science for the Scratch and MIT is that creativity, which is hugely important for us in computing science. I spoke a little bit about some of our partners. So here's a list of just some of the partnerships that we have across Scotland. I've spoken an awful lot about Microbit, Scratch, Apps for Good. While Callum and Laura are speaking, I'm going to pop in some links from Apps for Good, because they're also delivering some national webinars, particularly aimed at Scottish practitioners. Barefoot, which is really our core resource for computing science for our practitioners. It starts at early level, goes up to second level. But I'm always stressing to secondary practitioners that please look at Barefoot, because you can absolutely adapt and use those resources. And again, the amazing thing about Barefoot is that it's based across the entirety of the curriculum. It's not about delivering computing science in isolation. It's about embedding it across other subjects. So without further ado, I have spoken enough. I will man the chat facility now, but I am now going to hand you over to Callum. So Callum, I will stop sharing now.
Thank you very much. I'll just get set up and ready to go.
And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat facility. As I said, I will also share some links to some webinars from Apps for Good and also Code Club and some live code alongs that they're going to be offering.
Amazing. So thanks very much, Louise. That was fantastic to kind of see all that coming through Scotland as well nationally. So I'm going to start looking more localised and kind of look at more authority-wide of what we're getting up to in North Lanarkshire Council. So as I said previously, my name is Callum Croghan and I am a digital pedagogy practitioner and I am a primary teacher to trade and I've taken on this role for the past 2 years to support digital across the curriculum within our authority. I'm going to highlight 2 projects today that we've managed to help enhance learners' experiences with computer science and how we plan to empower our practitioners and teachers to enhance computer science learning even further into the future. So to start off with, I'm going to talk about the live code alongs that we ran as part of our offering. Myself and a colleague, Jasmine Chand, who can't be here tonight, unfortunately, but I will highlight the fact that she was a co-developer and co-presenter with all of this with me as well. So we did attend actually the Education Scotland live code alongs, and this was what kind of sparked our interest to get our own code along going for our authority, because we noticed we didn't have a lot of our authority attending these events, so we wanted to try and pique their interest to help with that as well. We started to kind of create a draft of a teacher support pack, and we kind of asked ourselves what would we want as a practitioner to help support our teachers in class. And we realised that a lot of the practitioners who were going to the Ed Scott code alongs were people who were quite experienced with computer science or coding and didn't require a lot of kind of scaffolding and support. So we wanted to kind of extend that reach a little bit for within our authority and get less confident kind of teachers in and make sure we're getting them interested and started with computer science as well. We sent out a sign-up sheet and we were aiming really high. We wanted to get an engagement of around 2,000 learners across the whole code along, which is about 10 days we were doing it across of. And we thought, do you know what, that's quite high. We don't know if we'll get it or not, but actually the engagement we ended up receiving was excellent, was phenomenal. And at the end of that as well, we asked the practitioners if they would take part in some spotlight and showcase projects to show off what they got up to during the code alongs, how the learners kind of thought and felt throughout the code alongs as well, and also to get the practitioners' views to how they were feeling about it. This stage was stage 1 of a 2-part process for us to evaluate the code alongs, and I'm going to talk about stage 2 very briefly in the next slide about the impact and engagement we got. So as you can see, we kind of got our engagement was well and exceeded in the 2,000 learners. We ended up getting 4,941 pupils coding along throughout the whole of the 10 days. So we're averaging roughly about 500 kids per day, which was fantastic for us. And we got all of our clusters. So within North Lanarkshire, we have 23 clusters, and we had a representative from every cluster attending that as well. And there was 206 individual classes involved with that also. As part of the sign-up sheet, when we included it, we actually asked practitioners questions about their own confidence with coding, and we found out that only 15% of people who actually attended, or 15% of attended the code alongs, were confident with computing science and coding. But everybody who signed up obviously were very much engaged and wanted to be part of a code along. There was tremendous enthusiasm and feedback to the code alongs as well, and we asked teachers to complete a post code along survey which asked the same type of questions about their confidence within computing science and coding, and it found that actually it had risen from 15% to 48% of the teachers were feeling confident with being able to go away and teach computing science or teach some kind of coding within their own settings. Since the code alongs, we're now seeing much more computing science lessons being delivered across the authority, and we have begun to see coding clubs popping up in schools, which previously would never have dreamt of doing coding clubs or extracurricular activities surrounding computing science. We're also finding that primary 7s who took part last year are continuing their coding knowledge into secondary. And within North Lanarkshire Council, we have something called Future Fridays, which high school students get the opportunity, the second half of their day on a Friday, they get to kind of pick an initiative or a club or volunteer as part of their school day, or they can just go home, which some do. But we have found a lot of the P7s from last year are actually attending the Future Fridays coding club, what our digital team are actually running, which is fantastic to kind of hear. And they may not have had an interest or a push to try coding before, but because of the code alongs, they had this interest and they're starting to choose their own options, and they're going to use their knowledge to get further that within their coding journey as well. Our code along format has been adapted and developed by some practitioners to help attract an interest in coding, and now within our North Lanarkshire Computing Science progression pathway that I'm going to mention shortly, we are going to help practitioners with more support and to help build and improve the delivery of computing science. But before we get on to that, let's have a quick wee look at just some of the feedback and some of the people voice that we got throughout this as well. So the teachers were asked to take part in a showcase project, and we provided a quick template and with some prompt questions to ask them. And they were asked to send in some images of their learners being active in the code alongs as well, accompanied by some comments on the knowledge of coding, next steps, and even some feedback for ourselves of how we can improve our code alongs for the future, because we are still continuing to want to do code alongs this year, and it is something that we feel that it's a really nice stepping stone for practitioners who aren't as confident to get into computing science. And we do have a quick wee, just a wee GIF just to show you what our project kind of looked like. So this was one of the 3 projects that we ran last year, and this one was just called Save the Planet, and it was asteroids coming down towards the planet, and the kid had to click on them to get rid of them and make sure they were saving the aliens that lived on this purple planet. So people voice was very, very important to us to gauge how good the code alongs were, but also to see if they were interested enough to continue and do more because of the code alongs. So let's have a wee look at some of the computing science comments and how that has impacted our young learners. So we looked for a few different things when we look at a pupil voice. So being confident and enjoying it as well. So they had confidence and they would be enjoying. So that's that kind of successful learners that is coming through that we really want with our computing science nod on it as well. So people have used coding before, but they wanted to know more. That was the big aim of that bit there, was they wanted to know more. There's an appetite there for kids to continue learning with the computing science, and excitement. Why would you not want to make sure that these lessons are exciting for kids to be able to get involved in and learn even more about their coding journey as well? This one was really good in particular because it used the word instructions, and that really stood out to us because it was the idea that they were actually learning about it. It wasn't just, oh, we made the alien move around or we made the asteroids disappear. They were given it instructions to do something. So that's the kind of idea of that computational thinking, that understanding that they're starting to use the proper tools and language as well. This one just kind of melted their heart. They were proud that they made a game because it was a little tricky. So that's that kind of perseverance that's coming through from the kids, and it's fantastic. It's a lot of skills they're going to build through computing science, through things like the concepts approaches that Barefoot kind of mention a lot of the time. And then it was awesome. It was fun. It was really good. That's the bottom line of what we wanted to do with the code alongs, to make sure that it was engaging, that it was impactful, and that practitioners could walk away more confident. And talking about the practitioners, we did actually ask for some of their input as well, and we did get a few people giving us some examples. So we had some teachers who weren't so confident to start with, but they are starting to roll out Scratch within their establishment as well, and start to use more computing science, and they're asking questions of how can they get better, how can they use their next steps to get better. We also have some of them as well who are looking at early years using unplugged variations of computing science as well. So early years looking at ordering in there with the kind of little dinosaurs, little figurines, and using things like Bebop for directional commands as well. And we even have some who are lucky enough to have one-to-one iPads in the class, and they're using things like Microbit to create electric guitars, or even using Scratch to help with their math across the curriculum. So you're starting to see things like that little math Scratch program that's shown on there. It creates a randomized rectangle and gives them the length and the breadth, and they have to then type in what the area of that rectangle is, and it will tell them if they are correct or not as well. So starting to use computing science across the curriculum is fantastic as well. So we're going to move on to the second project, which is one that I hold very dear to my heart, because myself and 3 of my colleagues really spent a lot of time on this. So we are really proud to introduce this to everybody, and this is our North Lanarkshire Computing Science Progression Pathway, which looks at early years all the way through to second level, but third level should be coming by the end of this year. So I worked alongside Suzanne Love, Michelle Hardy and Lisa Carroll to create this document for practitioners who are at any level on their computing science journey as well. So these progression pathways are designed for practitioners to use in the planning, teaching, learning and assessing of computing science, and in preparing our learners for a digital world of work, life and leisure as well. Each pathway is split across 3 levels to highlight progress through a level, and the higher order thinking skills are highlighted in bold and can be used to support staff for learning intentions and success criteria. Learners can be supported in understanding the purpose of their learning and the journey of the computing science learning, and practitioners can use the pathways to ensure that the professional judgments are consistent, robust and reliable as well. The progression pathways were developed over a period of time, as I kind of mentioned at the start. It was a long period for us, but it did start off a lot of kind of reading and research and getting our head around the computing science curriculum, looking at the E's and O's, the benchmarks, and one document in particular was called A Guide for Primary and Early Years Practitioners, which was fantastic. It was our definite go-to guide for us. We started to create kind of first drafts of our pathways, which each of us got an organizer to take away, draft and come back, and we moderated as a team. Quite a lot of moderation throughout the year, and ensured there's a really good consistency across the organisers as well. We had a lot of collaboration as well with some of the practitioners within our own authority, and also with Education Scotland as well, with George Milliken, the Digital Skills Development Officer, giving us some wee bits of feedback and hints and tips of how we could make sure that our pathway was of high quality as well, and we amended that where appropriate, where we felt it was good to do. We also had moderation, I said, within our own team, so within the computing science working party, but we also had another digital team who were doing the digital literacy pathways, which are also live now, and they helped moderate a lot of our stuff as well. So the progression pathway document has general usage guidance. We'd like to highlight some of this is why it's specific to computer science as well. So the document that I spoke about earlier, which is the guide for early years primary practitioners, this was supported by Scottish Government, Education Scotland and Skills Development Scotland, and it was provided as an exemplification guide and resources for use in early years and in primary years, and was based on the 4 years of working through the academics that were compiling it. Within computing science curriculum as well, we talk about the organisers that build upon each other with these kind of bricks that we have here. So we talk about the organisers have the theory, which is the computational thinking, the language and tools, which is the kind of concepts, approaches, computing information and processes, and then on to creating, which is the kind of designing and building stage. We see it as like a spiral curriculum where the learners will revisit this concept at an increasing depth and as they work through the levels, and practitioners should avoid teaching the organisers discreetly and plan lessons that combine learning to achieve an outcome. This way it's going to engage a lot more learners, and all this kind of information should hopefully empower our practitioners to create really impactful and engaging lessons as well. The progression pathways are not resource driven to allow staff the autonomy to select the most appropriate resources to best suit the learner's needs and their interests as well. But not all computing science needs to be taught as plugged with devices or software. It can also be taught as unplugged. For example, just using pencil and paper sometimes to get through a little kind of funny maze game or a crazy monster game. The progression pathway core learning is generalised to support that, and research does suggest that children who are introduced to unplugged activities before switching to plugged gain stronger computational skills and are more motivated, and there will be more about that coming out in the CLPL that we are continuing to do for this year within our authority as well. So I am pleased that I'm very, very close to the end of my little part, but we're not stopping here. So we have got a few other things that we are going to be doing this year to help empower our teachers to impact computing science across the authority. So we will be launching a progression pathway Glow blog where all of our pathways will be up there for anyone to see, and this will be shared obviously on Glow blog, so anybody who uses Glow can get on there and have a look at what we've been getting up to. We will be launching exemplified learning as well, which should be coming out closer to October week, with all links that are linking out to resources that we have found that have been helpful, but also some resources that we have been creating that are bespoke to North Lanarkshire. And as I said previously, we are going to be doing some CLPL, which NL presents Getting Started with Computing Science, which is going to be quite useful, I would say, for our practitioners to make sure that they are gaining that confidence, gaining the knowledge and the skills to make sure that they are teaching computing science the most effectively as they possibly can. And lastly, I'm going to just say that we will be adding a third level progression pathway as well, alongside some of our secondary colleagues who will help us with that throughout the year. But that is me totally finished. And hopefully today that has just kind of highlighted how we have managed to enhance the computing science experiences of learners, and also how we plan to continue having a positive impact by empowering our practitioners with knowledge and confidence of the computing science curriculum. And I'll take any questions, obviously, things at the end once Laura does her little part. But thanks very much for listening.
Thanks, Callum. Hand over to yourself now, Laura.
Okay.
Yeah, please do. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat facility. As I said at the end, I'll pop all the links into the chat for the Computing Science Leadership Group, which is obviously only available to yourself if you're in Glow, Did You Learn Scott, etc. Excellent, Laura. Your presentation is looking great.
Thanks. Yeah, so my name's Laura and I'm from Glasgow, and I'm no expert in computing science, but I have had good opportunity to be able to use microbits within the classroom in my school. So it's going to be a very quick whistle-stop tour through microbits and different ideas for how to use it, but the slides will be shared at the end because there's loads of links in it, kind of to Google and microbit and different things. So I was just thinking of the main things within the primary curriculum, the ideas of computational thinking, using technology and solutions, and how we can build, develop in the young workforce, and the sustainable development goals into our planning. As type of computational thinkers, we're thinking about children that can have logic, be able to work through steps and solve problems. But I was thinking mostly about tinkering and the whole idea of like babies and how they tinker and navigate the world. And as Callum mentioned, children wanting to know more. And there's a lovely little blog here about setting up a tinkering space. So if you're thinking maybe kind of within the infants or early years department about where to start with coding, a tinkering station is a great idea. And here's some ideas of things you could include. And when I've done tinkering stations, the kids are like, I feel like I'm at work. And any kid that you give a hammer and a screwdriver to, it's like all their Christmases come at once. And it's all that risk-taking behavior through play and really developing skills where they can see themselves in these different roles within the future. I know my son, if I give him a screwdriver, he goes wild for it. So I'm going to talk about, I'm not talking about all the sustainable development goals today, but some ideas of how you can use microbits to be able to help to plan for these across the curriculum. So in terms of promoting good health and well-being, some nice ideas is recoding your microbit to send messages to a pupil or sending smiley faces. I love the setting up a PE challenge. So creating your dice within microbit and having like 6 different rounds of exercises. I did this, and a poor kid programmed the number 6 in the dice to be burpees and just kept rolling a 6 over and over and over again, and about to nearly pass out in the gym on me. But it's a really good idea, and it helps the kids to be much more motivated. The kids were saying like, oh, I didn't think I'd be able to keep going, but it was quite a fun task. And then kind of linking it across the curriculum with your pedometer. I did this with P7s in June, and you can imagine the apathy of P7s towards the end of the year, but put a microbit in their hand and see them running around where it's like a Victorian building, so doing laps off the top floor landing. It just makes it exciting to get kids up and moving. And in terms of emotions, being able to code your microbit to show a different smiley face on it. And Lorna Gibson did a code along about turning your microbit into the breathing exercise or kind of a relaxation device, which was really useful. And I've used it in the classroom too we do emotional check-in every day as part of our PATS program. But for the kids that don't want to publicly share their emotions with the rest of the class, or you might even just have 1 or 2 children in your class that want to use their microbit, kind of have it on the desk beside them, embedded in the classroom, showing their emotions by coding their microbit to show a smiley face or a sad face, or maybe a confused face that they need help to help to work through their feelings. In terms of climate action, I like the one to code your microbit to sound a really loud alarm to remind people to turn the lights off, or to close the door if your classroom is a fire hazard. But coding it to go off at a certain time of the day, before playtime, at home time. And in our school, we did a walk throughout the school, and the children were monitoring the different electronic devices, which are on and off, and being able to create sort of posters encouraging staff and other pupils to be looking out for this, and being able to go to your local park as sort of a litter pick, and coding your microbit to be able to sort the recyclables and non-recyclable materials. And you find lots of activities similar to that on like code.org, sorting rubbish, and kind of the links of this to robotics and how like a machine can sort materials, and linking that to the real life. And here's some of the posters that our kids made. They did have the reminding us not to turn our radiators all the way down, or the pipes might burst. That's when you work in a Victorian building, things like that can happen. In terms of gaming is one of my favorite things in school. I think it's a huge part of developing the young workforce, as Louise talked about. The kind of the skills that are being required for 2025. A lot of this is all linked to coding, and I think particularly being in Scotland, like kind of designing games was not really something that seemed possible. Even 10 years ago, that wasn't really something that the average person would be able to do or ever dream of doing. And then you've got like Rockstar Entertainment in in Scotland. And now, although Dundee and like Abertay kind of started the gaming design, now almost every university around the country is offering these programs to people. And it's something that's accessible to the learners, no matter which background you've come from, because gaming and access to technology now is becoming just part of everyday life. And if you're doing like the rock, paper, scissors game, it's very exciting within the classroom, very noisy and very fun. And it helps with that kind of continuous provision of kind of giving children the tools and microbits, and they go way off and become creative and create much more exciting things you could think of yourself. In terms of ocean life, using your microbits to display different sea creatures, and linking this to research, within fishing habits and turtles, and developing different types of tools and instruments you can use to help support fishing and protecting our oceans. So we did a nice, our P6s did a project on recycling crisp bags, and they were using their microbits to be able to, as like a counter, to be able to count this. And then they realized as time went on, the number of crisp bags they were collecting had diminished. So it helped them to be able to encourage them to go back around the classes and highlight this as an issue to the children. And protecting the wildlife, being able to create like a simple counter or a simple device is really a game changer. It allows you to take learning outdoors, into your local park, around your school, to take part in like park surveys, bird watches, creating devices against animal poaching, even one about, creating a kind of coin flip type activity where you can code your microbit. If it drops at a certain speed, it can change and decode it for that, and linking that then back to math, the chance and probability. And I took our P5s for a little walk around the school playground first, and then comparing what we had found in terms of butterflies and flowers, and comparing that to what you do in the park. And that can be tailored to any kind of project that you're doing. And finally, choice making, using your microbit to display different words for you if you're learning languages, and coding the microbit to be able to spell different words for you, using it as a way to vote on different issues. And then if you're wanting to kind of move on as another step, there are lots of different adaptations you can add to your microbit, like pH sensors, and I've links here to show you the amazing things that other people have come up with. And here it was the kids saying, I usually hate writing out my words, but once you give them microbit and able to code the words into it, it was a game changer and able to just make learning a lot more exciting. I think just want to reiterate the kind of the importance of developing the young workforce, and that those skills that are required for our future workforce can be really developed through the world of computing science.
Oh, Oh, Laura, thank you so much to both you and Callum for delivering you know, your insight and the excitement and engagement that you've all had with your learners with computing science. So we have finished 5 minutes early. Everyone will be very happy about that. What I'm now going to do is I've just sent some links in there for events that's happening with Apps for Good, Code Club, who are doing a live code along. I've also got links for the Microbit courses, some professional development courses from Microbit. And also, you know, I've linked in there DigiLearn Scott and also a link to our computing science leadership team. So this has been recorded. So for those people who have not been able to attend this evening, please feel free to share this session with them. Let them know that, you know, the amazing world of computing science is live and well, and this very short seminar is there. But we have so much more to share if you head on over to the Computing Science Leadership team in Glow, and yeah, we hope to see you at one of our courses or one of our live code alongs. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and we shall let you get going now. Thank you.